I've been talking a lot about character lately, and that's because there's been a lot of stuff going on when it comes to like sexual assault, all these sort of scandals, all this dirt that keeps coming out on people, and it's happened on the Democratic side in the past. More recently, a lot of it's come out in Hollywood, and then there's also the whole scenario with the sexual assault allegations with Roy Moore. I think there's actually a lot of important lessons that we need to learn from this chapter in America, where it's just coming out that more and more people have done this thing, especially with what's been going on with Roy Moore. So I also want to talk to you about a book that I've read. I think it'd be a really good book for you to read at this time. You're listening to The Alex Spicer Show. Okay, so Roy Moore, he's running for Senate in Alabama, and goodness, he has a good number. I think it's about five allegations against him for sexual assault, and it's really interesting because what happened when all this stuff started coming out, and it seemed pretty evident that it's probably pretty accurate. I mean, pretty honest that he really did do these things. You saw a major hesitation in the Republican Party to abandon this guy, to get rid of him. Instead, we discover that a lot of these Republicans are more concerned about winning a sinking election rather than worrying about who their candidate is, about hurting their own reputation and truly doing what's best for the American people. And this is a really big problem. This is something that one of the very first things we should learn when it comes to this stuff is that both sides of the aisle, both Democrats and Republicans, they have sided and stuck with people who are of very, very bad character, and merely because they believe that character, that person can allow them to win. That if as long as they stick with this person, they have the ability to do the things that they want them to do. They have the ability to accomplish or help accomplish the overall agenda that they have. Well, that just shows that our politics are totally off the rails. I mean, we're supposed to be doing what's best for the American people, and we should never have people who have this bad of character voted into office ever. I mean, honestly, it makes me really concerned when, well, I mean, I was really concerned last year during the election time with Donald Trump, then candidate Trump, and Hillary Clinton running. It was just like, wow, this is the best America can do, and it just doesn't seem to get better. We are still worrying more about winning than we are about doing what's right. I mean, it's even messed up that we have people, and I'm not talking about the Democratic Party, I'm talking about just like the normal voters, that you'll have people who side Republican who are still willing to vote for the guy just because they think the Democrats will do a worse job. We need to stop voting for who we think is not as bad. So the next lesson that we should learn from this situation is that, and this is kind of like reiterated from last year, because this is what we should have learned last year during the presidential election, and this is what we should be learning once again now, is that we need better people to run. There are a lot of people out there who really should run. They have that moral character, they have the ability to do so, but they don't do it. Why? Because they just don't want to be caught up in all that political stuff. They hate it. I mean, they care about politics. They care about what happens. They care about voting, but they don't want to be involved in doing that sort of thing. But unfortunately, we have a lot of people who are willing to go there, who are willing to do those things, who are the scum of the earth. We need more moral people to run. And I guess kind of an appendage to that lesson that we have learned, that we need more moral people to run, is that we should really give ourselves a better, or we should really look more carefully at third-party candidates, because the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, they have a lot of issues. They have a lot of corruption, and honestly, I think that there are a lot of good people out there who could make a difference, and maybe want to, but they don't want to be associated with either of those parties. And some of them reluctantly end up going for it, because joining those parties just because they feel like there's no other way to win. Well, I think that with all that goes on, we should really put a lot of stock into a third party, into a party that will really represent the people, because we're at a point where we don't truly represent the people hardly anymore. It comes down to a very small handful of candidates in both parties that will actually represent the people and not care so much about agenda. We have to remember, it's not about winning. It's about having a better country, about building America up, about following the Constitution, and supporting our rights, and definitely not being someone who sexually assaults people, who violates their rights of privacy, and it's really upsetting. So, about character, how do you build character? This is something that's been on my mind. I've been posting about this in social media. I've been writing about this, and when it comes to building character, I had a couple of thoughts I wrote down, and that is how do you build character? Well, you build it first, where you should first start building it is in the home, with the example of parents. They at least should be the first example of good character to children. And so parents, they build it in the home. They build good character for the children, help the children build good character in the home by being that good example, but also by giving them moral teaching. Right? And thing is, the way that they have moral teachings to give to their children generally comes through religion. So the best way that you can support families in raising children who will have virtuous character is through churches. Churches give the support that parents need in order to give them the stories, you can say biblical stories, even examples, and also the principles, the moral principles by which someone should live and build more moral character by. The founding fathers, they believed really, really strongly that man has the ability to go one of two directions. They can either do a lot of great good, or they can do a lot of great evil. They didn't quite side with the earlier philosophers that that man is primarily just evil from the beginning, or man is primarily good. That they believe that man actually has the capability of doing both, and that actually makes a lot more sense. So they believe that man could do good or do evil. In order to keep people on track, we need to appeal to their better nature, and the way that you do that is through God, through religion. That you use those things to steer people towards doing good, towards keeping and living virtuous moral character. Because there are so many opportunities out there to do bad. Ambition can rise up in people's hearts, and that just overthrows a lot of good things and causes a lot of problems. It has broken down civilizations in the past. So they believe that in order to steer people towards doing good, you need God, you need religion. And that's why President Washington, in his farewell address, he said that if he said in his farewell address that if you want political prosperity, if you want greater civility, if you want the American people to act more responsibly, then you need religion and you need morality. And those two together, if you can package that, which churches tend to package, obviously the religion part, but morality is dependent upon the principles that religion gives it, then if you give that to parents, then they're able to teach their children exactly how they can raise their children to be of good moral character, what they should avoid, who they should follow as their example. Because the more we kick churches out of the frame, the more we discredit them and say that we discredit them, and parents start to fall away from that. Well, then a new religion arises, and that has been growing stronger now, and that is the religion of politics. It's getting a lot stronger. Probably the strongest and most dangerous religion of politics out there, the most dangerous sect of religious politics, happens to be progressivism. And that's very dangerous because it's not based in principle. It's actually just based upon whoever's in charge. They decide what is good, what is bad, and what is right, what is wrong. And it's merely to be able to help them obtain more power. They're using the helpful idiots. They're using people who will blindly vote or follow them. That's where you start coming up with all these different terms, like hate speech, right? Like suddenly freedom of speech is not free. There's now hate speech, which should be restricted, and that's now a tenet of their religion. Now it can come and go. What I'm saying about progressivism is that things just pop up out of nowhere. These new concepts, these new ideas, these new principles, I guess you could say, of their religion, but they're not founded upon any true principles. They're just merely for the sake of obtaining power. Principles, true eternal principles that exist out there, those are meant to help build character. But more importantly, if they are true eternal principles, then you'll notice as you look back through history that when people have followed them, it has led to greater prosperity, freedom, civility. And when people have not followed them, it has led to a lot of destruction, a lot of problems. So our challenge today is that we need to bring back these things that drive us towards our better natures and help us to live with a more virtuous character, because we are seeing the true unearthing of a lot of scum and a lot of perverseness out there. We need to care more about character than politics. And so if we care more about character than politics, then we will not care if this person is part of the same party that we affiliate with, or we will not care whether or not this person will do some of the things that we really want done. If they are of bad character and they are unrepentant, right? They aren't sorry for what they've done. They tried covering it up, like basically every single person out there who has been uncovered as someone who has committed sexual assault. Well, we need to get rid of them then. We don't want them. We don't want those sort of people. We want people of good moral character, because the second you start voting those sort of people in, as we've seen already, then they are not really accountable. They've already lived their lives in such a way in which they try to avoid accountability. They try to not act accountably because they've tried to hide their sins, hide their problems from the world. And those who are also just very open about the bad things they've done, that's also dangerous as well, because then they have no sort of conscience, not even driven, a stinging conscience that can be driven by public opinion that drives them to try to act more morally. We don't want outright immoral character, but we just don't want immoral character altogether. Now, I want to talk to you real fast about before we finish this up about a book that I've read and seen what's been going on a lot lately with the way there's been a lot of boycotts on sponsors for like Fox News and all these other news stations, and there's been the boycotts in the NFL, and you see all these tactics take place. You see the way people try to destroy other people's lives, their reputation, their business, and it really makes you think of Rules for Radicals. That's written by Saul Alinsky. Now, Rules for Radicals, he literally wrote it for the progressive left, the people who were considered radicals at the time. He wrote it for them to give them the proper methods, the proper tools and way about doing things in order to be successful in getting what you want. Because he would talk about how the second someone starts cussing up a storm and stuff and breaks into that more immature character, you've lost the cause. I remember him talking about how there was, I think it was in Chicago, there was this politician that they wanted to stop, and there was this group of people trying to protest, and they stopped him in the hall. It seemed like it might almost get violent. And the second they started saying like "F you" or whatever, he said like that you lost the public support. You kind of lost the point there. But if you really want to destroy people, if you really want to conquer them, make them do what you want. If you want people to capitulate, if you want them to bow down, then you need to hurt them in the ways that count. You need to do it much more carefully. And the primary way that he would go about doing this was by destroying them and their business, by making it so that they can't have the money, the support. They would intimidate those who support causes or candidates who they disagree with by boycotting their products, by maybe sending a ton of people into this store and overwhelming the employees there, so they can't actually help actual customers, because false customers are constantly asking questions and seeking help and driving the other customers out. It's all all those sort of tactics. They're very sly. It's dirty. They're dirty tactics, but I really think that if you want to understand the sort of tactics that are going on that the left has used for years, they're really good at it, and that they're trying to get better at because they kind of got away from it with all the Antifa stuff and BLM that's happened. But they're heading back towards that. They're heading more towards what Saul Alinsky advised them to do. And the Republicans seem like they're starting to do the same. If you want to better understand what's going on and what will continue to happen, read that book. Once again, it's called Rules for Radicals by Saul Alinsky. It'll just give you a really good idea. I think it's really important to better understand your enemy, better understand those who are willing to do anything basically to obtain what they want. When it's not about what's good for the country, when it's not about what's good for the people, it's more just about what's good for them. Then read this book. It's one of several I would recommend for this sort of thing. So we'll be back next week. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things that come up in the news from here until next Wednesday. But if you have any questions or you like what you saw, just put them in the comments below. If you have any questions, I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. Also, just so you know, in the near future, I hope to be able to put these videos live. But that will just depend on on how many more people can listen to this show or watch the videos. So if you liked what you heard, share with other people. The more people who hear this, the better. I would love that. I really appreciate your support already so far. And don't forget to live free till next time. I will see you all next week.